New USGCRP director could reshape climate risk baseline. Climate science critic, named to lead national climate assessment. Matthew Wilicki, a geochemist with no formal climate science background who has publicly disputed mainstream climate findings, has been named director of the U.S. Global Change Research Program, the federal body responsible for the national climate assessment that businesses use as a common reference point for physical climate risk. The White House has named Matthew M. Wilicki, a former University of Alabama geochemist, to lead the U.S. Global Change Research Program, USGCRP, the congressionally mandated body that coordinates federal climate research across roughly a dozen agencies and produces the National Climate Assessment, NCA, every 4 years. Wilicki has publicly argued that prior federal climate assessments overstate certainty, rely too heavily on high-end emissions scenarios, and understate natural climate variability, positions that put him at odds with the scientific framing of recent assessments. The appointment follows the Trump administration's April 2025 dismissal of the scientists and contractor staff who'd been developing the 6th National Climate Assessment, NCA 6, a stop work order that halted the report before Wilicki and a new group of researchers known for climate skepticism were brought in, starting December 2025, to resume the work. The Union of Concerned Scientists has publicly questioned Wilicki's qualifications for the role, while the White House has said the appointment is intended to end what it called the use of USGCRP as a vehicle for political agendas instead of sound science. Why the National Climate Assessment matters beyond federal policy. For facilities, infrastructure, and finance teams, the near-term picture has not changed. Existing NCA additions remain in place, and engineering standards, insurance catastrophe models, and state regulatory requirements that are increasingly diverging from federal baselines continue to draw on a broad range of scientific sources rather than the NCA alone. The more consequential question is what NCA 6 looks like once it is published, and whether it emphasizes uncertainty and variability differently than the assessments many organizations have treated as a shared federal baseline for resilience investment and long-range capital planning. That baseline function extends well past environmental policy. NCA findings are routinely cited in infrastructure investment decisions, water resource planning, disaster preparedness, and climate risk disclosures, providing a nationally recognized reference point that has helped align planning across agencies and industries. In much the same way state climate action plans already lean on federal risk data to justify their own resilience priorities. If NCA 6 adopts materially different assumptions, organizations may end up reconciling multiple climate risk baselines, since insurers, lenders, engineering consultants, and international reporting frameworks are not obligated to adopt whatever the federal government publishes next. That would raise the importance of documenting which climate scenarios and assumptions underpin a given capital plan or risk disclosure, particularly for organizations with long-lived physical assets, a governance question that echoes the broader policy volatility investors are already pricing into climate-linked decisions. The appointment does not itself change existing regulatory obligations or predetermine what NCA 6 will conclude. For executives, the relevant question is less about the scientific debate over one appointee and more about whether the federal climate benchmark they have relied on for planning purposes remains a stable reference point going forward. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment+Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.